The room froze when her maid of honor stood up, tears trembling in her voice. "I'm pregnant with his child." And in that instant, the bride's dream wedding became her worst nightmare.
Welcome to another episode of Ever After. Kindly comment where you are listening from and subscribe so you don't miss out on our next episode.
Chapter 1. The Bride's Mourning. The bridal suite was soaked in morning light, soft and golden as it filtered through tall hotel windows. Lace curtains fluttered in the faint breeze, carrying the perfume of roses arranged in vases on every surface. The bride sat before the mirror, hands folded tightly in her lap, heart pounding like a drum against her ribs. Her makeup artist dabbed carefully at her cheeks, but her eyes betrayed her nerves. Behind her, bridesmaids whispered and laughed, but she only heard the echo of her own thoughts. This is it, the day my life begins again. She adjusted the satin gown draped across her body, ivory silk that pooled like liquid moonlight on the carpet. A gown that cost more than her first car, gifted by the man she loved. He had insisted on sparing no expense, and she had laughed, telling him it was too much. But deep down, she had been touched by his generosity. She had believed it was proof of his devotion. Still, as her mother adjusted her veil, she caught a flicker of unease in the mirror. Something about the way the maid of honor hovered too close, whispering on her phone, glancing at the door every few minutes. "Everything okay?" the bride asked softly, forcing a smile. The maid of honor snapped her phone shut and flashed a grin, the kind that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Of course, just making sure the photographers are ready." The bride nodded, ignoring the strange knot twisting in her stomach. "It's just nerves," she told herself. "Today, I'm marrying the man of my dreams. Nothing can go wrong." But her hands kept trembling as she slid the diamond ring around her finger, whispering to herself like a prayer. This is love. This is forever. Chapter 2. The Groom's Preparations. Across the hotel in a mahogany-paneled suite, the groom stood tall in front of a mirror, adjusting his cufflinks. They gleamed, platinum, monogrammed, worth more than most people's salaries. He admired the reflection. Sharp jawline, tailored tuxedo, every detail curated for perfection. His groomsmen lounged on leather couches, sipping expensive scotch despite the early hour. Laughter boomed, music pulsed faintly from a Bluetooth speaker. The groom basked in the energy, the spotlight always on him. "Big day, huh?" One of his friends clapped him on the back. "Biggest," the groom said with a smirk, but his eyes flickered to his phone resting on the dresser. Notifications lit up the screen. Private messages, unread and urgent. He silenced it quickly. His best man noticed. "You good, man? You look distracted." The groom's smirk returned, practiced and smooth. "Just business. You know how it is." But it wasn't business. The unread messages carried the weight of secrets, things he had buried under charm and wealth, things he believed would never see the light of day. Today was about appearances, about the perfect bride, the perfect wedding, the perfect life. "Besides," he added, pouring himself a drink, "what could possibly go wrong?" The room erupted in laughter, but deep in his chest, unease stirred. He drowned it with scotch, tugging his bow tie into place. Through the window, he caught sight of the venue below, white roses lining the aisle, crystal chandeliers glittering above, the hum of staff preparing for a night of spectacle. It was everything he wanted, grand, enviable, the kind of event people would talk about for years. But even as he smiled, the question whispered in the back of his mind, what if the past doesn't stay buried? Chapter 3. The ceremony begins. The church bells tolled, their sound carrying through the crisp afternoon air. Guests in glittering gowns and tailored suits filed into the ballroom, voices a low hum of anticipation. The scent of roses and champagne mixed with polished marble and candle wax. The bride stood at the threshold, clutching her bouquet of white lilies so tightly the stems bent. Her father kissed her forehead. "You look beautiful, sweetheart. Ready?" She nodded, but her throat was dry. She fixed her eyes on the aisle, the endless stretch of carpet leading to him. The man she loved. The man she trusted. The music swelled, and she stepped forward. Gasps rippled through the crowd at her beauty, her grace. She smiled, trembling, but radiant. At the altar, the groom turned, eyes locking with hers. His smile was dazzling, the kind that could melt resistance, erase doubts. For a moment, her heart soared. This is it, she thought. This is my forever. But just beyond his smile, just in the flicker of his eyes, she saw something. Hesitation? Fear? A secret pressing at the edges. And from the front row, the maid of honor's gaze lingered on the groom a little too long, a shadow of something unspoken flickering across her face. The bride didn't notice, or maybe she chose not to. The priest's voice rang out, solemn and steady. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." And so it began, the wedding that would not end as planned. Chapter 4. The reception in full bloom. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers, each crystal catching the light like a cascade of stars. Tables were dressed in ivory linens, champagne glasses standing tall, roses spilling from silver vases. A string quartet played softly while waiters weaved through the crowd with trays of golden hors d'oeuvres. The bride glowed as she made her rounds with the groom. Guests complimented her dress, her smile, her perfect match. She nodded, thanking them, clutching his arm like an anchor. For the first time since morning, she felt the nerves ease. She stole glances at her husband. Her husband. The word wrapped around her heart like silk. He looked every bit the dream, confident, charming, his laughter booming as he shook hands and accepted congratulations. Her maid of honor trailed behind, smiling politely, but her eyes were elsewhere. Every so often, her hand brushed her flat stomach, her gaze flicking toward the groom with something unreadable. The bride didn't notice. She was too lost in her fantasy, finally made real. "Ladies and gentlemen," the master of ceremonies called, tapping his glass. "If I could have your attention, it's time for the toasts." A hush settled over the ballroom. Glasses clinked, candles flickered, and anticipation filled the air. The best man spoke first, delivering a funny, slightly tipsy speech about brotherhood and love. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Then it was the maid of honor's turn. She rose slowly, her champagne glass trembling in her hand. A hush swept over the room. The bride smiled warmly at her best friend. She'll probably tease me about college or our late-night talks, she thought, her heart swelling. She'll remind everyone how much we've always been there for each other. The maid of honor lifted the microphone. Her lips parted, but no words came. Her hand shook. Her eyes, wide, wet, filled with terror and defiance, met the groom's. Something passed between them, quick and sharp, like a blade hidden in plain sight. And in that moment, the bride's stomach twisted, though she didn't yet know why. Chapter 5. The shattering announcement. The maid of honor cleared her throat. The microphone squealed with feedback, making everyone flinch. Her voice faltered. She looked down, gripping the glass so tightly the stem threatened to snap. She inhaled, lifted her chin, and forced the words out. "I have to tell you all something." A murmur ran through the crowd. The bride tilted her head, confused, smiling nervously. The groom's expression, though, his mask cracked. His jaw tightened, his eyes narrowed, a sheen of sweat breaking at his temple. The maid of honor's voice wavered, but gained strength as though fueled by desperation. "I can't stand here and pretend anymore. I can't smile and toast them like nothing is wrong, because—" Her words fractured, but she pressed on, louder this time. "Because I'm pregnant, and the father is him." She turned, arm trembling as she pointed at the groom. Gasps tore through the room like a wave crashing. Someone dropped a glass. It shattered against the floor. Guests whispered in horror, necks craning to see the bride's reaction. The bride's smile froze, her bouquet slipping from her hand. The lilies scattered across the marble like broken promises. "No," she whispered. Her throat closed. She looked at her husband, searching his face for denial, laughter, anything. But he only stood rigid, pale, lips pressed thin. "Tell them she's lying," the bride whispered, her voice trembling. "Tell them now." But he said nothing. The silence screamed louder than words ever could. Tears welled in the bride's eyes. Her knees wobbled, and she grabbed the back of a chair for balance. Around her, whispers swelled like a storm. Phones appeared, flashes going off. The maid of honor's shoulders shook. "I didn't plan to say it here. I didn't want to. But I couldn't watch her walk into this marriage without knowing the truth. He's been with me for months." The bride staggered back. The world blurred, sounds muffled, except for her heartbeat pounding in her ears. The groom finally moved, reaching out. "It's not what it looks like. She's lying. She's just—" But his voice cracked, and the tremor in his hands betrayed him. And in that instant, the bride knew. The dream she had clung to was over. Her wedding had turned into a nightmare. Chapter 6. The Aftermath. The ballroom erupted into chaos. Guests rose from their seats, some whispering furiously, others hurrying toward the exits, eager to escape the scandal. The string quartet stopped mid-song, their instruments hanging in stunned silence. The bride stood frozen, tears streaking her flawless makeup. Her mother rushed to her side, wrapping arms around her trembling shoulders. But the bride couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Her eyes stayed locked on the groom. "Please," she whispered, almost childlike. "Tell me it's not true." But he only looked away, shame written across his face. The maid of honor set the microphone down with a clatter, tears sliding down her cheeks. She didn't run, didn't hide. She simply stood there as if waiting for punishment. The bride's knees gave out. She collapsed into a chair, clutching her veil in trembling fists. "How could you?" Her voice cracked. "How could you both do this to me?" Gasps echoed. Cameras clicked. The humiliation burned hotter than the betrayal. The groom crouched, trying to touch her hands, but she recoiled as though his touch were poison. "Don't!" she spat, voice breaking. "Don't you dare touch me!" The maid of honor sobbed softly. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Sorry?" The bride snapped, her voice rising with raw pain. "You, my best friend, my sister in everything, and you choose him? On my wedding day?" Her chest heaved, eyes wild with heartbreak and fury. The room was no longer filled with laughter and champagne. It was suffocating with betrayal. And as the bride looked between them, the husband she thought she knew, the friend she trusted with her soul, her heart cracked in ways she feared would never mend. Chapter 7. Behind Closed Doors. The reception hall had dissolved into chaos, but the wedding party had been whisked into a smaller room adjoining the ballroom. The air inside was heavy, curtains drawn, silence pressing. The bride sat on a velvet chaise, still in her gown, her bouquet abandoned on the floor. Her mascara streaked down her cheeks, but her beauty was all the more haunting for it. The groom paced like a caged animal, tugging at his tie, scotch glass in hand. "She's lying," he spat finally, voice harsh. "She's jealous of you. That's all this is. She's trying to ruin us." The bride's lips trembled. Jealous? She was my maid of honor, my best friend. She stood beside me through everything. Why would she lie about this? "Because she's desperate," he snapped, spinning to face her. "She's always envied you, your life, your family, your beauty. Now you've married me, and she can't handle it. So she makes this spectacle, this—" "She said she's pregnant," the bride whispered, cutting him off. Her voice was barely audible, but the words cracked like glass. How could she invent something like that unless what? He pressed, his tone sharp but his hands trembling. Unless you believe her? Her eyes glistened as she met his. I don't want to believe her. For the first time that day, his anger faltered. He softened, crouching down beside her, taking her hands despite her flinch. Then don't. Believe me. I chose you. I married you. That should tell you everything. His words dripped with practiced charm, but the hollowness beneath them echoed louder than truth. From the corner, the maid of honor stood silently, eyes red from crying. She clenched her fists, readying herself for the storm. Chapter 8. The maid of honor's evidence. The bride lifted her gaze to her maid of honor, betrayal and rage simmering together. Is it true? Prove it, because right now I don't know who to believe. The maid of honor swallowed hard. Her fingers shook as she reached into her clutch and pulled out her phone. I didn't want this, I swear I didn't. But if you need proof... She opened her messages. The screen glowed with late-night texts, photos, dates stamped in cruel clarity. The groom's words lit up the screen. I'll tell her soon. I just need time. Tonight was perfect. I can't stop thinking about you. Don't worry about the baby. I'll take care of everything. The bride's hand shot out, gripping the phone. Her eyes scanned the messages, each word slicing deeper than the last. Her breath came ragged, her chest heaving. She turned to her husband, voice breaking. You wrote these? He stepped forward quickly, reaching for the phone. They're fake. She doctored them, I swear. Technology makes it easy. Don't you dare insult me with more lies, the bride screamed, her voice raw and guttural. The groom froze, his excuses faltering in the face of her fury. The maid of honor's tears spilled freely. I wanted to keep it hidden, I swear, but when I found out I was pregnant, I couldn't let you marry him without knowing. The bride's fingers tightened around the phone until her knuckles whitened. Her voice was low, trembling but deadly sharp. Both of you betrayed me, my husband, my best friend. Do you even realize what you've done? The maid of honor sobbed. The groom clenched his fists, jaw set, as if the truth itself were an enemy he could still fight into silence. But the silence that followed was heavier than any denial he could muster. Chapter 9. The cracks widen. The bride staggered to her feet, her veil slipping off, pooling on the carpet like shed innocence. She faced her husband with tear-streaked cheeks and fire in her eyes. Tell me the truth, she demanded, her voice hoarse. Did you touch her? Did you lie to me, to everyone here? He hesitated, too long. His silence was louder than confession. Her chest caved, a sob tearing from her throat. She turned to leave, but he lunged forward, grabbing her arm. Wait, please listen to me. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Like this? She cried, wrenching her arm away. What does that even mean? His voice cracked. I made a mistake. I was weak. But it's you I love. It's you I want. Don't let her ruin us. The maid of honor flinched, guilt flickering across her face. But the bride's gaze burned into him. You ruined us, not her, not anyone else. You. Guests had gathered at the doorway, hushed and horrified, watching the drama unfold like a stage play. Every whispered gasp, every lifted phone recorded the end of her fairy tale. The bride straightened, wiping her tears with trembling hands. Her voice dropped, cold and final. This marriage is over. Before it even began. The groom's face drained of color. For the first time, fear, not arrogance, gripped him. The maid of honor whispered through her tears, I never meant for it to be like this. The bride's eyes cut through her like ice. You were supposed to protect me, and you handed me to the wolves. She turned, veil trailing behind her, gown rustling like thunder as she walked out of the room, leaving them in ruins behind her. Chapter 10. The Hotel Suite. The bride stormed through the gilded hallways of the hotel, veil discarded, gown dragging along the plush carpet like a burden she couldn't shed. Her mother hurried after her, heels clicking. "Sweetheart, wait!" "No!" the bride snapped, spinning around, her chest heaving. "I don't want to hear anything. Don't you dare tell me to smile for the cameras. Don't you dare say be strong. I just want this nightmare to end." Her mother's face softened, but there was steel in her eyes. "If you leave now, the press will eat you alive. Do you understand? By morning, every headline will call you a runaway bride, a scandal, a joke." The bride's stomach twisted. She imagined tomorrow's papers. Millionaire's dream wedding crashes in betrayal. Her humiliation printed in bold for the world to dissect. Her mother took her hands. "Go upstairs. Lock yourself in the bridal suite. Rest. We'll figure this out tomorrow quietly." Too numb to argue, the bride let herself be led. When the suite doors shut behind her, silence fell heavy. The grand room was supposed to be her sanctuary, the place she and her new husband would share their first night. But now, it felt like a tomb. She ripped off her earrings, hurled them across the room. The diamonds clattered against the floor, mocking her. She collapsed onto the bed, burying her face in her hands. And then, knock, knock, knock. She stiffened. Slowly, she stood, moving to the door. She flung it open. Her husband stood there, tie loosened, hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot. "Please, we need to talk." Her breath hitched, rage flaring. "Get out!" But he stepped inside anyway. And though every part of her wanted to scream, a bitter truth settled in. She couldn't escape him yet. Not tonight. Chapter 11. Colliding Worlds. The suite felt smaller with him inside, tension thick enough to choke. He poured himself a drink, downed it in one swallow, then faced her. "I know I've hurt you," he began, voice hoarse. "But walking away now will destroy us both. Think about your reputation. Think about mine. You don't know what's at stake here." She laughed bitterly, the sound sharp as glass. "My reputation? You cheated on me with my best friend and let her announce it at our wedding. Do you think I care about society dinners and headlines?" "You should," he said flatly, "because this world doesn't forgive weakness, and they'll label you weak if you run." Her hands shook, fury and despair colliding. "And what about love? What about honesty? Or were those just props in your little show for the press?" He faltered, his jaw working. For once, words didn't come easily to him. She stepped closer, her voice trembling but fierce. "Look at me. I don't care about your millions. I never did. All I wanted was you. And you threw that away for her." Silence stretched, filled only by the city lights flickering through the windows. Then, unexpectedly, his shoulders slumped. He whispered, "I didn't mean to fall into it. I was stupid. Weak. But when I saw you walking down that aisle today, I realized I've never wanted anything more than you." Tears burned her eyes. She wanted to believe him. But the wound was too fresh, too deep. From the hallway came muffled voices, reporters lingering, family members arguing, chaos still brewing. They were trapped together, not out of choice, but out of necessity. And the bride hated how much her heart still ached for him despite everything. Chapter 12. A sleepless night. Midnight passed, then 1, then 2. The suite remained lit, the two of them on opposite sides of the room like strangers sharing a cage. The bride sat at the vanity, her gown crumpled around her, staring at her reflection. She hardly recognized herself. Red eyes, smeared makeup, lips trembling. She looked broken. Behind her, the groom sat in an armchair, head in his hands, silence weighing on him. The scotch bottle was nearly empty. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "Why her?" His head lifted slowly. "I don't know," he admitted, raw and defeated. "Maybe because she reminded me of you. Maybe because I hated myself and she was easy. But it was never her I wanted. It was always you." Her throat tightened. If it was always me, then why wasn't I enough? The words hung heavy, slicing through the silence. He had no answer. A tear slid down her cheek. She turned back to the mirror, whispering to her reflection, "I should leave you." "You should," he said quietly, surprising her. "But I pray you don't." The room went still. She curled into herself on the chaise, hugging a pillow like a shield. Across the room, he leaned back, eyes closing. Neither of them slept. By dawn, they were still trapped. Together, yet oceans apart. And though she swore she hated him, a tiny ember of longing still smoldered beneath her rage. Chapter 13, The Letter in the Drawer. The bride woke late the next morning, her body stiff from sleeping curled up on the chaise. Her gown was wrinkled, hair tangled, mascara smeared. She looked like a ghost of herself. The groom was gone. For a moment, panic surged, then relief washed over her. She thought she'd escaped the weight of him. But when she rose, she noticed the desk drawer slightly ajar. Curiosity pulled her closer. Inside, folded neatly, was a letter. Her trembling hands unfolded it. The handwriting wasn't hers. It was the maid of honor's. Her eyes scanned the words. "I hate myself for this. I never meant to want what was yours. But every time I saw the way he looked at you, I wished it was me. When he finally came to me, I told myself it was only for comfort. I told myself it didn't matter. But then I found out about the baby. And I realized I can't live in your shadow anymore." The bride's stomach lurched. The betrayal cut deeper, knowing her best friend had lived in silent envy for years. She crumpled the letter in her fist, tears blurring her vision. All this time she smiled at me, dressed me, stood beside me. A knock on the door broke her spiral. Her mother entered, carrying coffee. "You need strength, darling," her mother said softly. But the bride's voice was sharp, broken. She hated me. My best friend hated me. Her mother's eyes flickered with something like recognition. Envy is poison, and sometimes it hides in the closest places. The bride turned toward the window, clutching the crumpled letter like a weapon. For the first time, her tears weren't only for him. They were for the friendship she'd lost, the years she'd never get back. Chapter 14, The Groom's Past. That evening, the groom returned. His eyes were bloodshot, his clothes rumpled. He looked less like a millionaire and more like a lost boy. The bride stood stiffly by the window, arms crossed. "Where were you?" "I went to see her," he admitted. Her chest tightened. "Of course you did." "No," he said quickly. "Not for that. For closure. I needed to understand why I let it happen." She laughed bitterly. "Do you really think I care why?" But he pressed on, his voice dropped, heavy. "Because I've been broken for a long time. Before you. Before her." The bride turned, eyes narrowing. He sat, running a hand over his face. "When I was 16, my father left. Just disappeared. My mother cried for months, and I swore I'd never be that man. But the truth is, I've always feared I'd become him. So I keep testing myself, sabotaging myself, like if I destroy things before they're real, I can't be abandoned." His voice cracked. For the first time, he looked stripped of his arrogance. The bride's breath caught. She wanted to scream, to tell him pain wasn't an excuse, but part of her, against her will, saw the frightened boy inside him. "You should have told me this before you promised me forever," she whispered. "I know," he whispered back. "And I'm sorry." The room filled with silence, heavy with words unspoken. Chapter 15, The Maid of Honor's Confession. 2 days later, the bride found herself summoned to a quiet cafe. She almost didn't go, but something compelled her. The maid of honor was already there, pale, eyes swollen from crying. She looked nothing like the confident woman who had stood at the altar announcing her secret. The bride slid into the seat across from her, icy and unyielding. "You have 5 minutes." The maid of honor clasped her hands, voice trembling. "I never wanted to hurt you, do you understand that?" The bride's laugh was bitter. You slept with my husband and carried his child. Spare me the lies. Tears spilled down the other woman's cheeks. It wasn't about him. It was about you. You've always been the perfect one. Beautiful, loved, admired. I was always second best. And when he noticed me, even for a moment, it felt like winning. Like I wasn't invisible anymore. The bride's chest ached, her anger warring with sorrow. So I was supposed to lose everything so you could finally feel seen? I know it sounds selfish, the maid of honor whispered. And it is. But I swear, I didn't mean for it to go this far. When I found out about the baby, I panicked. I thought if I didn't tell you, it would be worse. But the truth is, I couldn't stand watching you have everything again. Silence fell. The bride stared at her, heartbreaking all over again. Not because she forgave her, but because she realized envy had destroyed something that once felt unshakable. Finally, she stood, her voice quiet but sharp. You didn't just take him from me. You took you from me. I don't even know who you are anymore. The maid of honor sobbed, reaching out, but the bride walked away, leaving her in tears. As she stepped outside into the cold night air, she felt strangely lighter. Not healed, not yet, but freer. The truth had gutted her, but it had also unshackled her. Chapter 16. Breakfast in Silence. The hotel dining room was hushed in the early morning, sunlight spilling across polished wood and half-empty tables. The bride sat alone, picking at toast, dressed simply in jeans and a sweater now instead of gowns and glitter. When the groom entered, she stiffened. She wanted to leave, but her legs wouldn't move. He sat across from her without asking. For a moment, neither spoke. Just the clink of his coffee cup, the scrape of her butter knife. Finally, he broke the silence. I went to the office yesterday. She arched a brow. Already repairing your image? He sighed, his voice low. I didn't go for me. I went to make sure they wouldn't drag your name through the mud. I told them if anyone mentions you in connection with all this, they'll regret it. The bride blinked, caught off guard. Why would you protect me now? His eyes lifted, raw and unguarded. Because I still love you, even if I don't deserve you. The words hit her like a storm. She wanted to reject them, to hurl her anger back in his face. But instead, she found herself staring at her untouched toast, her throat tight. For the first time since the wedding, silence between them wasn't suffocating. It was tentative, like a wound barely beginning to close. Chapter 17. Laughter in the Rain. That afternoon, the sky broke open. Rain poured over the city, washing the streets, beating against windows. The bride had escaped the hotel for a walk, umbrella in hand, desperate to clear her mind. Half a block away, she realized she wasn't alone. He was trailing behind, hands shoved in his pockets, letting the rain soak his suit jacket. She turned, exasperated. Are you following me? He shrugged, sheepish. Maybe. I didn't trust you wouldn't walk into traffic. Her lips twitched despite herself. You're ridiculous. And then, unexpectedly, her heel caught a crack in the pavement. She slipped, umbrella spinning, and before she could fall, he caught her. For a heartbeat, they froze, pressed close under the pounding rain. Their laughter broke out at the same time, hers light and breathless, his deep and surprised. It was the first time they had laughed together since before the wedding. As the rain drenched them both, she felt something loosen inside her. Not forgiveness, not love, but a fragile memory of what they used to have. He brushed wet hair from her face, softer than she expected. You're still the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Her chest ached. She stepped back, clearing her throat. Don't ruin the moment. But her heart betrayed her, because for the first time, she wasn't sure she wanted him to stop. Chapter 18. The Music Box. That evening, back at the suite, she wandered to the vanity where her things were packed. In the corner sat a small velvet box she hadn't noticed before. She opened it to find a delicate silver music box, etched with roses. When she turned the key, it played a soft, haunting melody. He spoke from the doorway. "It was supposed to be your wedding gift. My mother gave it to my father when they married. He left it behind when he left us. I kept it all these years." The bride's throat tightened. "Why give it to me?" "Because you're the only person I ever wanted to build a forever with," he said quietly, "even if I broke it." She set the box down, hands trembling. The melody filled the room, weaving between them like a fragile thread. She turned to face him, eyes shining with unshed tears. "Do you know how badly I want to believe you?" "I know," he whispered. "And I'll spend the rest of my life proving you can." For the first time, she didn't feel anger burning in her chest. Instead, there was something else. Hope. Dangerous, fragile hope. And as the melody faded, she realized that, against all odds, a part of her still wanted to believe in them. Chapter 19. The Photograph. The next morning, the bride stood at the suite's balcony, hair loose, face calmer than it had been in days. For the first time, she'd slept without crying. She heard the door click and turned, only to see him walk in with a glossy magazine clutched in his fist. His jaw was tight, his eyes stormy. Without a word, he tossed it onto the bed. Her heart stuttered. On the cover was a photograph, him and the maid of honor, laughing outside a private restaurant. She was holding her belly, glowing. The headline screamed, "Millionaire's secret family, wife left in the shadows." The bride's throat closed. "You told me you went for closure." "I did," he said quickly, voice cracking. "The press, they twist everything. I swear I didn't." But she cut him off, tears already burning. "Do you hear yourself? You spent years hiding, years lying. And even now you expect me to believe you over what's right in front of my face?" His hand raked through his hair, desperate. "I'm not lying to you this time. Please." Her laugh was bitter, choked. "You said that before the wedding. You said that the night you swore I was your only. Every word from you feels like poison now." The fragile piece of the past days shattered like glass. She stormed from the room, leaving him to punch the wall in helpless rage. Chapter 20. The Confrontation. She didn't mean to run into the maid of honor, but fate twisted cruelly. The woman appeared in the hotel lobby, reporters swarming her, flashing cameras exploding like fireworks. The bride froze as the maid of honor smiled tightly at the microphones. "Yes, he's been supporting me. He cares about his child." The words stabbed like knives. The bride pushed forward, fury burning away her restraint. "Supporting you? Or covering for you?" Gasps rippled through the crowd. Reporters shoved microphones closer, hungry for blood. The maid of honor faltered, then whispered, "I didn't mean—" "No," the bride snapped, voice trembling with fury and heartbreak. "You meant every word. You wanted him. You wanted to be me. And now you're parading lies to destroy what little dignity I have left." For a moment, the maid of honor's face crumbled, guilt flickering. But then her chin lifted. "He loves his child. You can't take that away." The bride's body shook, her voice raw. "Maybe not. But you'll never take my soul. And you'll never take my worth." With that, she turned and walked out. Flashes blinding, questions raining down. Behind her, the maid of honor stood silent, reporters devouring her hesitation. Chapter 21. The Words That Broke Them. That night, back in the suite, the air was suffocating. He paced. She stood rigid by the window. "I swear, it's not what it looks like," he begged, voice hoarse. She whirled, eyes blazing. "Do you know how insane that sounds? Every betrayal in history has been followed by those words." He stepped closer. "I've made mistakes." "Mistakes?" she exploded. "You slept with my best friend. You let her destroy my wedding, and now the world thinks I'm the foolish wife clinging to a liar." His face twisted, defensive. "And maybe you are." The silence after those words was deafening. He froze, regret flashing in his eyes instantly. But it was too late. Her chest rose and fell sharply. Tears spilled, but her voice was icy. "Thank you. Thank you for finally telling me what you really think of me." He reached for her. "No, I didn't mean—" She stepped back. "You meant it enough to say it." She grabbed her bag, her gown still draped over the chair, and walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" His voice cracked with panic. "Somewhere I can breathe," she whispered. And then she was gone. He collapsed onto the floor, hands gripping his hair, the weight of his words crushing him. The shatter point had arrived. Chapter 22. Alone in the Chapel. The bride wandered aimlessly through the city that night until her feet carried her to a small stone chapel tucked between tall buildings. Its wooden doors were open, warm candlelight spilling into the damp street. She slipped inside. The air smelled of wax and lilies. A lone priest sat at the altar, humming softly, but otherwise it was empty. She slid into the back pew, clutching her coat tight around her. For the first time in days, she let herself break. Silent sobs shook her chest, hot tears sliding freely down her cheeks. She whispered into the silence, "Why wasn't I enough?" The question echoed like thunder inside her. She remembered every promise he'd made, every smile, every vow. And yet she was here, betrayed, humiliated, discarded. But then another thought pierced through. Or maybe I was always enough. Maybe he was the one who wasn't. The realization made her breath hitch. She looked up at the crucifix, the candles flickering, and whispered again, but this time differently. "I don't want to hate him forever. I just want to be free." It was the closest she had come to peace. Back at the suite, he sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the empty space where her bag had been. The music box still rested on the vanity, silent now. He picked it up and turned the key. The soft melody filled the room, and he buried his face in his hands. Flashbacks ripped through him, her laughter the first night they met, the way she used to steal his fries, the look on her face when he first said, "I love you." And then, the memory of his words hours earlier. "And maybe you are." He winced, tears spilling, his chest heaving. He had told himself he was powerful, untouchable, above mistakes. But now, he was just a man who had destroyed the one person who ever believed in him. In a broken whisper, he said to the empty room, "If she never comes back, it'll be my fault, mine alone." And for the first time in his life, the millionaire who had everything felt truly bankrupt. Chapter 23. The Invitation. The next morning, the bride sat in a small cafe near the chapel, sipping bitter coffee, her mind still torn. She had made peace with one truth. She couldn't keep carrying his betrayal like chains. She was startled when an older woman at the next table leaned over with a gentle smile. "You looked like me once. Heartbroken but pretending to be strong. Do you want to know the mistake I made?" The bride blinked, startled, then nodded. The woman's eyes softened. "I walked away too fast. He made mistakes, yes, terrible ones. But I never gave him the chance to prove he could change. I regret it every day." Her throat tightened. "And what if he doesn't change?" "Then you walk away with no regrets," the woman said simply. "But at least you'll know you chose, not just fled." The bride sat frozen long after the woman left. The advice burned through her walls. That afternoon, a hotel envelope slid under her cafe table. Her name was written in his familiar scrawl. With trembling fingers, she opened it. "Tonight, 8 p.m., the ballroom. No reporters, no audience. Just us. One last chance. Please." Her heart pounded. This was it. The choice. Pride or vulnerability. Leave forever, or risk one final step toward him. Chapter 24. The Empty Ballroom. The bride stood outside the hotel ballroom doors at exactly 8 p.m., palms damp, heart hammering in her chest. She told herself she was only here for closure, that she'd walk in, listen, and walk away. But when she pushed the doors open, her breath caught. The massive room, once glittering with guests on their wedding day, was now empty except for a single table in the center. Candles flickered, casting warm pools of light across white linens. Soft music drifted from hidden speakers, the same melody from the silver music box. He stood at the far end, waiting. No tuxedo this time, no polished armor. Just a simple shirt and open collar. Vulnerable, human. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he whispered, "You came." Her voice trembled. "I shouldn't have." He nodded, stepping closer but keeping a careful distance. "Maybe not, but thank you anyway." The silence was heavy, filled with everything unsaid. Then he drew a shaky breath. "I wanted to recreate the wedding night. Not the lies, not the spectacle. Just us, the way it should have been." Her eyes stung, tears threatening. "You can't erase what happened." "I know," he said quickly. "I don't want to erase it. I want to own it. I betrayed you. I broke every vow before I even said them. But tonight, if you'll let me, I'll speak them honestly, with no one else listening." Her knees felt weak. The same room that had once been her prison now held the faintest glimmer of hope. He motioned toward the table, and they sat across from one another. No feast, no champagne, just 2 glasses of water between them. His voice shook as he began. "I've spent my whole life chasing power, money, reputation. I thought love was just another thing I could buy, control, or win. But you—" His throat caught. "You taught me that real love is earned. And I failed. I failed you." Her hands clenched in her lap, tears welling despite herself. He pressed on. "If you walk out tonight, I won't stop you. I'll let you go with dignity because that's what you deserve. But if you give me even one more chance, I'll spend the rest of my life proving that I can be a man worthy of you." Silence hung thick between them. Finally, she spoke, voice raw. "Do you have any idea what you cost me? My best friend, my dignity, my faith in us. You shattered me." His head bowed. "I know, and I'll never forgive myself. But I'll carry that weight if it means you don't have to anymore." She stared at him, her chest aching. Every part of her screamed to run. And yet, his words didn't feel like poison anymore. They felt like truth. Slowly, she whispered, "One more chance. That's all you get." His eyes widened, wet with relief. "I won't waste it." Chapter 25. The dance. The music shifted softly, swelling with the melody they had once chosen for their first dance. He stood, extending a hand. "May I?" For a long moment, she hesitated. Then, almost against her will, she placed her hand in his. His warmth spread through her, steadying her trembling fingers. He pulled her gently into the center of the ballroom. No guests, no applause, just them. His arm wrapped around her waist. Hers rested lightly against his chest. As they swayed slowly to the music, she realized how different this felt. Not a performance, not a fairy tale. Just raw, imperfect humanity. "I was so afraid of losing you," he whispered into her hair. "And I almost did." Her voice broke as she answered, "You still might." He held her closer. "Not if I can help it. Not ever again." She closed her eyes, letting the tears fall freely. For the first time, the ballroom didn't feel like a cage. It felt like a beginning. Fragile, yes. Uncertain, absolutely. But real. The song ended, and they didn't let go. In the hush that followed, she lifted her head to meet his gaze. And in his eyes, she didn't see the arrogant millionaire who had humiliated her. She saw a broken man who wanted to be whole again. With her. Her lips trembled into the faintest smile. "Don't make me regret this." His forehead touched hers, his whisper steady and sure. "Never again." And in that quiet ballroom, surrounded by flickering candlelight, their story didn't end in ruin, but in redemption.